The mystical truths in religions East and West are brought to light again and made relevant for our time by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, world-renowned author and spiritual teacher.
Tell us more about the aura.
The aura is really an example of the interdependence of all life, because it is through the aura and the 7 centers or chakras that emanations of love, feelings of joy and buoyancy flow, are received, are transmitted, and through the aura we all interact with life. We interact with distant galaxies and distant stars, and we have the capacity to give and receive energy. Now, the concrete force field of man, the physical body, is kind of a focal point on which all of this hangs. The mental body, the emotional body, and the memory all interpenetrate as 4 interconnecting sheaths. But these sheaths then in turn have surrounding them that blueprint, that L field and T field. The pre-existence of those energy fields, as Yale University researchers have postulated, makes us ask whether or not a supreme being created all auras in the beginning. What is the source of the aura, and does the discovery of the aura actually suggest a predestination for every living cell of life throughout the universe? Of course, this makes us grapple with all questions of theology, because we are discovering more and more of man as we discover more of the aura. And the conclusion we come to is that our Creator has placed a portion of Himself within ourself, beginning with the threefold flame in the heart. And finally, we begin to realize that the aura is actually a garment that we wear. It is a transmitting and receiving station. It is highly susceptible to the mass consciousness, to emanations from beyond our planet, and even beings who are beyond our level of consciousness. I often think of the plane in which we live as a thin line in time-space, and that there is a vast cosmos above and below this line, and the cosmos I'm speaking of consists of simply other frequencies which our 5 senses are not equipped to deal with. Considering this, then, we can realize that if the aura itself extends beyond this thin black line, then the aura can be used as an extension of the self into other dimensions. For instance, as a space probe or a time probe, or as an energy that actually enables us, while we are tied to this physical frame, to explore many planes of consciousness.
Is it the aura that accounts for such things as ESP and...
Well, certainly the extrasensory perceptions beyond the 5 senses, and scientists tell us we have hundreds of senses, certainly must come to us through the emanation of the aura. And I think that many people realize that as our moods change, so our force field changes. We can know how we feel when we have had a good night's sleep. The aura is recharged. It is charged with prana and with the emanation of the stars and of the earth currents. And we come back and we have a certain charge of energy. We know how we feel when we are depleted. These are not merely physical conditions. These conditions are based on how much of the energy of God's consciousness we take in and retain. People notice that in meditation they increase self-awareness and increase the manifestation of the aura and of the chakras. People notice this in prayer. We notice that children can deplete the aura very quickly when they cry and have a prolonged period of crying or a tantrum or become angry because their needs are not immediately met. At the conclusion, they usually drop off to sleep. They are exhausted because they have expended the energy content of the aura. We find that the playing of certain types of music causes us to have our auras depleted, while the playing of other types of music gives us a sense of buoyancy and joy and contacting realms of light where we feel then imbued by the consciousness of angels and ascended beings. The aura is constantly then being played upon, and the reading of the aura, which Kuthumi describes in his book, is a very profound science, because there are so many levels and layers of the aura to be reckoned with. And truly it takes a level of adeptship which most people who claim a psychic clairvoyance actually do not have. This is why Jesus said, "Judge righteous judgment," because an accurate analysis of the aura cannot be made from the surface, just as a doctor cannot produce an analysis of the health of the body by simply looking at the surface. And so we may see manifestations in the aura which have to do with the type of environment the individual lives in, the pressures and tensions of life that he is under, or a certain amount of karma that he is carrying that day. But that surface reading may tell us nothing of the deep soul yearnings and of an intense manifestation of light that comes from other lifetimes and incarnations. I think it's very important to realize that the aura is constantly changing. It looks like the manifestation of a blip on a tape recording machine that is registering the levels of one's voice. The aura is a pulsating manifestation. It turns colors and actually reflects the colors of frequencies which are interpreted by the one who reads the aura as qualities of light or of darkness.
What are those colors?
Each color represents a certain band or frequency in the electromagnetic spectrum. Color is more than color. It is actually a vibration. For instance, when we love with purity, without desiring to possess, control, or manipulate loved ones, there is a pure stream of pink energy that comes forth from the heart and fills the aura. This is why we say when people are in love that life is rosy and that people see through rose-colored glasses. It is because their auras are so imbued with the pink energy and the pink spectrum that they can only behold life in that love energy, and therefore they are not critical or analytical, but they are buoyed up by their own sense of the presence of God as love. When love then becomes impure because of lust and of darkness and of carnal manipulation, and it is a misuse of that sacred energy of life, we find that the auras of people become charged with a vibration, hence a color, that is not the pure pink of that rosy-cheeked babe that represents the fullness of our concept of love, but the pink will take on perhaps a crimson color of passion, or it will take on a dark gray and black tone and quality of a death-like grip of the attempt to control individuals, whether one's children or whoever one is sharing a relationship with. Now, the aura will clearly reflect this, but because most people are not capable of reading the aura, they often are mistaken by the words, the sweet words that someone is speaking, instead of looking directly at the motive of the heart and the motive of desire within the subconscious. Because people do not read the aura, they must rely on an inner sense, almost a sixth sense. Pilate was not able to read the aura of Jesus, or he would never have turned him over to the Sanhedrin. He had to rely on the dream of his wife to determine that this was a good man, leave him alone. How impoverished we are to think that we have to rely on dreams, astrology, etc., when the aura is giving us, as though it were shouting from the housetops, every reading we need to know. What can we do then in the absence of our ability to read the aura? We can tune into the soul, because the soul will always tell us the truth if we maintain contact with this center of God consciousness. The soul then knows, and the soul will tell us by giving us that immediate first impression about someone, whether that person is right or wrong, or whether that person is right or wrongly motivated. And so we have to listen to the soul speaking within us as an inner voice, and then we can often avoid mistakes in business, very costly mistakes in finance, in money situations, as well as in our love life and in our interaction with people. And it is very important to trust that first impression, because subsequent to it, the individual will then become familiar, and we will start to incorporate his ways, his actions, and his aura into our own. and there will no longer be that sharp impact of the initial contact. So the aura is our best defense, but we need to be still, as Jesus said, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that the I am within us is the God who will direct us and care for us until we can expand our soul faculties to make full use of the aura that is our gift from God.
Is there a distinction between that intuitive feeling we get about each other and reading the aura?
Oh, there is a very great distinction, Doug. The intuitive feeling is something that acts independently of reading the aura and is a substitute for it. It's just kind of another safety valve that we have. It is something that we can have without the development of aura reading and aura probing, and it's a very necessary faculty of self-protection that is built into the human psyche. The reading of the aura demands years of study, but the very first principle which Kuthumi teaches us is the purification of the faculty of vision, and this has to do with the clearing of the third eye center, the ajna at the brow, so that we can begin to see as God sees, which is God's basic desire for us.
Thank you very much.
This is a presentation of the Summit Lighthouse, an international spiritual organization dedicated to universal enlightenment. Founded in 1958, the Summit Lighthouse is a beacon of truth to thousands worldwide and a leader in New Thought spirituality.